So my company is Just Be Better. It is a online fitness platform for people to get personal training. So
Oh, that's awesome. It's great to meet you.
yeah, yes, likewise,
Officially.
likewise, likewise.
And
Best as you
some
can.
other things. He has a very robust
Oh,
resume.
you'd say I'm being shy over
Can you share a
here.
little bit about your college career?
Yes. So lifetime.
To be a little bashful, huh? You're like, oh,
Yo,
just
I
kidding,
I try not to boast. Okay, so I actually played football at Texas A&M for 4 years. So from 2011 to 2014. So the years where we just entered the SEC, I was part of those teams. So
Whoa,
yeah,
that's pretty amazing, right?
yeah, it
I
was,
feel like
Think so.
that's a big deal.
yeah, it was a pastime, and it's amazing. My goal is always to do more in the future, right? So as a part of you, I try not to focus on the past, try to keep it forward pushing. But yes, no, definitely an amazing memories to say the least. And I got stories if needed.
What position did you play, if you don't mind me asking?
So I played linebacker,
Oh,
and
wow.
also
Okay.
yeah. So with that, also was the 12th man. So it was the top walk on at Texas A&M. It's a very honorable tradition. A&M, and it's funny because I was talking to a friend earlier. He was getting mad at me for not mentioning that I played football more,
Yeah.
and I was like, "Look, bro, just I guess to be this regular, but yeah, no, it's an amazing accomplishment. Earned a scholarship my senior year. Played middle, outside, whatever linebacker they needed. I played it. So
Wow, that's pretty awesome.
thank you,
Yeah.
thank you,
B
thank you, thank
is the man for sure. And his background relates to what you're building, Nicole,
you.
at
Yes,
HX Innovation. So if you could please introduce yourself as well and tell us a little bit
yes,
about your
please.
company.
Sure, absolutely. So I'm Nicole Homer. I'm the co-founder, CEO of HX Innovations. We're a sports science company. We provide human movement analytics to coaches and trainers to help them evaluate their athletes and their player performance, and also allow them to have injury risk assessments for them. So we're a biotech company officially. We program our neuromuscular algorithms. I know that's like a huge word, but it needs to be said, right? So we program biosensors and bio devices so that coaches and trainers, they can actually use the technology without going to a biomechanics lab. And then we give them reports, feedbacks, and recommendations on how to better play their players, right? So instead of waiting for an injury to kind of occur, we give them insights on how to prevent them or how to prolong, right, the health and wellness of their athletes. And so it's pretty dope. We love it. My co-founder is my husband. He also played college football and basketball. And he played
Damn.
safety. Yeah, I know. He's a little on the intense side, right? So,
Yeah.
but we balance each other out pretty well because when it comes to like being a visionary and all that stuff, we together is kind of like a strong, powerful situation. So, um, so that's what I do. And HX is she's a baby, right? I mean, we were founded in 2019, but this is like 6 months before the pandemic. So we had to actually pivot and do footwear testing. So we
Wow.
tested the performance of people in footwear. Industry standard calls for machines to test the performance standards and qualities of footwear. And so a lot of times people don't realize that their foot, knee, hip, back pain is actually because they're wearing the wrong shoe. And so what we started doing is testing humans in footwear. I mean, go figure,
Yeah.
right?
Mm-hmm.
And then we would give insight to footwear companies to help them make better shoes. So like our technology is found in the Skechers Arch Fit shoe line. We tested them. We tested Timberland Pro. So that was our pivot during the pandemic. But now we're like, oh, let's go back into sports since everyone's playing now. So we have kind of like this great balance of what do we do when things are bad or low? We can always pivot and do something else because like movement analytics, everybody needs it. So we just have to find out how we can fit it in so that we can stay afloat. So it was very beneficial.
Incredible.
Yeah.
Incredible. And that amazing innovation is coming out of a little state called Delaware, for anyone
I
who's
love to
not
know.
familiar.
Delaware born entity, a Delaware entity that's actually
That's
in Delaware.
actually in Delaware. Yes,
Right.
it's so funny because like Delaware is like the incorporation capital of the world. Like every
Right.
company is incorporated there, and for all startup founders, if you're ever like raising venture capital, they all tell you, "Oh, I only invest in Delaware C corps,
Yeah.
right? C corporation." So um, the irony is that the Delaware community is very small,
Yes.
and all of those companies aren't actually based there. But your company is innovating, thriving, and is still based in your home state. So I love that.
Yeah. Well, the tricky part is I'm actually born and raised in Philly, but
Uh-oh.
I went to University of
Mm.
Delaware. Right, I know. I went to UD, but my co-founder, he's born and raised in Delaware. And I did, I guess, transplant here the middle of my high school career. And then I just stayed here for college, and then I went to Florida. But I think the beautiful thing about Delaware, and we're committed to grow in Delaware because it's really a beautiful space for where we are, like in sports technology. Within a 100-mile radius of our key location, which is the 76ers Chase Fieldhouse in Wilmington, Delaware, there are over 400 professional collegiate teams that are within a 100-mile radius of where we are. And so when it comes to access to our market, right, we can drive there, right? We don't have to take a flight. And so that's really our hub is, okay, let's start within, and then we'll just slowly and surely expand until we burst, and then we can just go even further. So it's a beautiful thing being in Delaware because of the 360 degrees of separation too, right? It's so small, you kind of like accidentally know everyone. And if you don't, you accidentally end up knowing someone who knows someone who you know. So we think that it was we're committed to it because it just seems like a good idea for us right now.
Absolutely. Absolutely. B, do you have that same experience in a little state that you're in?
Not quite, man. We gotta make a little drive to get places, but no, it's all good. All good.
Yeah, B is in Texas,
I
outside of Dallas, right?
Yeah.
But Nicole, I'm in Philly,
So that's
so
like an hour.
I was about to say, like the way she was talking, it sounded like y'all were meant to be.
for
So
sure.
together.
Nicole, what part of Philly are you from?
Germantown.
Germantown? Oh, right on.
Yeah.
My aunt is
Germantown.
out there now. I'm in West Philly.
Oh yeah. My dad's side's from West Philly. Mom's side's from Germantown in North Philly. So
Right on. Right on.
yeah,
Cool.
52nd Street and all that good stuff.
Love it.
Yeah.
So
So
B, I know you gotta have some
Yeah,
questions.
I was about to say, just let me know when you want the question to roll, and I got them.
Go for it.
Yeah. So Nicole, start me off. Where did the origin story from where HX came from? Like, just give me that background. What was the idea? What was the situation that you went through that sparked it? Like, hey, this is needed. Was it an injury that one of y'all? See, I got questions for days. I'm just gonna shut up and I'm gonna let you go.
yeah, HX Innovations, it really spawned like, the brainchild of my co-founder, my husband. He's the one who experienced this like catastrophic injury as a result of a football game that he was in. He on a tackle, his foot was lodged into the field, into the, it wasn't turf, it was like the grass, into the field. And but he tackled backwards, but his foot didn't move. So if you can imagine where the hinge of your knee usually goes like this, right? So his hinge went like this. Right. Yeah.
Oh.
So it's pretty super gross.
Yeah.
And so with that, of course, he couldn't play football, right, for a while, but he was committed to play again. And so in this commitment, he was going through physical therapy and rehabilitation. And then he started getting like this insatiable draw to like gait, right, and how our bodies move and how they function, and realizing that doctors and professionals didn't really have the resources, right, that they needed to actually help people get better. And so I think that just started this whole like insatiable desire to figure out why. And so it started with kinesiology, then biomechanics, then computational neuroscience, because you have neuromotor skills and blah, blah, blah. And then here I come teetering along, right? I'm getting my MBA, and he created this, this patent that I was like, well, let me do a study on it, right? Let me do a market analysis on this and see, well, I don't know, maybe we can do something with it. But at the end of the day, we applied for a National Science Foundation grant. We received the grant, and with that grant funding, we were able to do market analysis and a proof of concept. And then we grew it from there. So I just, looked for more grants, more awards. We started bootstrapping it and then testing out the hypothesis, testing out the business plan and making adjustments for it. So when we were going through all this, I was training for the Marine Corps Marathon. And I was, running and training, and then I got injured. And I was like, oh, okay. So that's what it feels like.
Wow.
Right. So, running like over 20 miles in, Quantico, in Virginia and the DC area, it's a toll on your body. And so I wanted to figure out, could this technology work on like anybody, or is it just people who have these extreme injuries? And so in me using the technology myself, I was able to say, okay, let me train again, but let me do it in a smarter way, right? Let me make sure that I'm strong enough to add on extra miles or extra whatever. And so normal people can use it too, is the point.
Good. Yeah. Okay. So, a lot of my mind's going everywhere right now because one, Nicole, let me use some background. During college, tore my ACL my sophomore year. Senior year, tore both labrums in my shoulders, so hence the leads are gone. But the way I look at it and look at your company, like if you can essentially predict an injury or a player is about to be injured, I don't know why. Like, if you're giving an athlete millions of dollars and somebody says like, hey, don't play him the next half of a game because if he does, he makes one plant that knee's gone. Yeah, I think it'd be kind of valuable, and plus you see that a lot of the times. I mean, especially in college where at least for myself, like when you're filling in for people and like even during practice, like how many reps you're getting with, and plus 2-a-days, like there's so much that can happen within, knowing how much to put on somebody, right? And even ran 3 marathons myself, and you can even understand with that. I know whoop's a thing, but it's like, does it really track how much your joints can handle, right? So, and then all the way back to your point, just with footwear, like, is it better for that athlete on longer runs to wear more, what do you call it, more foamy shoes that like absorb the impact, or is it better for them to build up the joints and go more barefoot? So, yeah.
It's really fascinating, the technology, right? And I think that because it's so convoluted, we have to figure out how to explain it in a way that everyone can understand. And that's really been one of our main hurdles, is like, how do you explain neuromotor and joint agility to people who are like, what? What is that? What are you talking about? So I think that, but we can't lose the validity of the science either, right? So it's kind of like that beautiful balance between science and business and regular people. How does that work? And I think that's been one of the struggles that we've had, is just how do we communicate this beautiful situation to people so they can understand it, digest it, and use it. So the education piece was really important for us, especially when we're going after investors and doing a round and meeting milestones. It's like, why is this important?
So
like,
do y'all measure
a bunch of things for me too?
I got you.
Go ahead.
Let me get one more.
Go for it.
So do y'all measure it off of like force on a joint? Is it like if you gave every joint like an energy bar, and it's like, hey, we've used up like this much energy of an energy bar, like, hey, 2 more or whatever, like if it was a plant stick, 2 more plays, like how do y'all measure that?
So in order to really get into like the very like the minutia of it, just really specific, we would have to implement actual like physical markers and biosensors to put on the body. We want to stray away from that. So using machine learning and computer vision technology, we can train these AI models to predict movement based on different demographics and classifications of people, right? So like I am petite and, you know, small, like pint size, right? So I'm my own demographic, right? But Gary is like tall. Like when I first met him, I'm like, oh wow, you know what? You're an exceptionally tall guy, right? But maybe it's because my vantage point is small. But my point is, in classifying people, right? We can classify movement. So that's the science of it, and that's why the computer vision and machine learning technology is so important, because we can actually capture the essence. I'm getting like into the forest right now, but we can capture the essence of different categories of people, and then we won't have to use the biosensors, is my point. Because we'll be able to say, like, your ankle to knee to hip to, you know, shoulder, and you fall in this category, right? And so we have trained a model for your category, and we're getting to this point. So we have so many different like data points. It's like beautiful. To the point where we can then say, okay, so your calf muscle is the muscle where we're seeing there's an instability. And so based on that, on how you are testing this instability, if you continue on, it's going to progressively get worse. And so in order for you to train effectively so that you don't overextend, right, you need to play for 30 minutes, right? And then you need to take a 5 to 10 minute break. And then you can play for another 30 minutes. And so that's where we have the technology now. How far it can go, like, we don't know, right? But it would be really curious, right, to figure out, you know, just how far we can go. Right now, we have the fatigue and endurance monitoring. So we can do that now, right? And then we can say specifically, okay, you need to stop doing it now.
Gary, can I get one more off?
Go for it, please.
Okay. Nicole, how do you establish that baseline per athlete? Are you basing them off of, I guess, their metrics versus the average, or you based it off of a baseline per that athlete?
Yeah, I love that question because it means so much, right? So one, you should compete against yourself. But it's always fun also to compete against others, right? So what we do is we establish a baseline for each individual athlete. And this is your baseline. This is your starting point, right? But then we encourage you, especially for professional levels, we want them to test as often as possible, right? So you can always improve. For collegiate athletes, we say at a minimum, you should be testing once a month, right? So you can gauge your improvement. And then what we do is we take your demographics. So your position, your age, your gender, your sport, and then we compare you against all the other people that we've tested in our database to you. And then you can say, oh, wow, out of all of the 100 people that I'll never know, I am top 10, or I fell down to 5, or whatever. So that's where we're doing it right now. So far as on the team level, and our main target are the teams and the leagues, right? So on that level, if we have a league right now, and that league can see and compare all of the athletes on all of their teams. And so why is that like super cool is because if you have a team like Z, right, and then you have a team A, you can potentially take all of your top players across all these teams and just build a bomb team A.
That's fair. Okay. I see what you're talking about.
Right? So you have like, you know, ages, you know, I think, so one of our clients, it's a soccer league, right? And so they have it ages, you know, 17, 18, 19, you know, 15, 16, whatever. But it was like, oh my gosh, this 13-year-old kid is playing higher than like on this 17-year-old kid level. So arguably his body is developing quicker than the other 13-year-old kids. Maybe we should put him in an elite league because he can play, and then his body is ready for it. You know, so it's like, player ranking comes into play, and then like this level when you're in league, and you can start making these like super teams, and next thing you know, you're just like using data, right? You're using data. You're not just using what you see, because I mean, trainers and coaches, they know what they're doing. We're not trying to take over your job. We're trying to give you more information so that you can play in a strategic way, and you can win games. Like that's the goal, right? Athletes want to play for a longer time, so we tell you how to do that. And then teams want to play, so they want to win. We can give you the information. What do you need? We give it to you.
Uh, she just she literally just made the coldest track team and nobody's done anything. Right? Like
Yes, sir.
everybody, well, you just measure them in the most basic scenarios. Like, okay, oh, those are my top four, like well built, put together athletes. Yeah, put them on a 4x1. Yeah, give us the gold. Appreciate
Yeah.
it.
I
That
love
is
it.
foolish.
I love it. As a
Oh
track and
my
field
god.
state champion, that is very intriguing to me.
Awesome.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, yes,
He's
sir.
holding
Okay,
back,
Gary.
wasn't he?
You
He didn't
know,
mention
Yeah,
that.
clearly.
400-meter
There's
dash,
always
four
words
by
over there.
four, four
What?
by two, all of
Okay,
that.
pin relays.
Yeah, you
What?
know. And they made me do the 4x8 because I'm tall, but I hated it.
Gary said, I guess I'll get out there and bust one real quick.
Yeah.
Good
Okay.
times.
That
Yeah,
4x8 is a little crucial. That's a little
it is
harsh.
crucial.
What?
So, okay, true story.
Yeah.
I ran one 4x8 in high school, and they made me run with the distance runners. I very much did not want to, but we ran the race. We broke the school record, and then I quit. I said, no more. I'm done. No more 4x8. I will not.
Broke the
I
record, just
refuse.
walked off, huh?
I
Right.
refuse. The
The
team, they
legend of
broke the
Gary
record
Johnson.
after that, but yeah, that's like part of my story. I'm like, yeah, we broke a record, and I quit. I said no
Oh
more.
my gosh. Yeah, like, you know what? You're welcome.
Yep.
Yeah, like I'm glad I could help.
For sure.
Right.
But Nicole, do you have any are there any teams, any customers you can talk about that you're excited to have had the opportunity to work with, or you're looking forward to working with soon?
Yeah. So when we did our proof of concept, it was just the grace, right? Like all the stars aligned. It was beautiful. And so we did our proof of concept with the Miami Heat. And so they're the ones who gave us the feedback on what we should be doing. Because first we had all these biosensors, like every other company, right? Like, oh, let's put all these sensors on you. And they were like, to be honest, we hate these sensors. Like, how can you not use them? And then we were like, all right, carrot, right? Let's figure out, how can we train these models differently? And so we took a step back, talked to an IP attorney, right? Like, I believe in solid foundations, right? Like, these are big, heavy hitters we're playing with here. Let's make sure our IP is tight if we have it at all, and we just so ended up having several, right? So the IP was the first strategy. Like, all right, let's get this down. Let's figure out what this is. What can we trademark, right? What can we copyright? And that was like a whole year process where we just developed a whole IP strategy on how we can continue to monetize even after we exit, right? So that's how we were thinking. And the Miami Heat helped us, right? They helped us. And then we also had a great opportunity to work with the New England Patriots, where the captain, Slater, was like, hey, look, this is what I need as an athlete. Like, I want to be my own advocate. Like, I got money on big contracts on the line. These are the things that I need in my report. And so having that feedback on these higher levels, it just helped us kind of step up to the plate and figure out how we can solve the real problem. And so that market analysis was just perfect, but then we were like, well, do colleges need the same thing that professionals need? We can assume that they don't, but maybe our assumptions are wrong. We don't know. So we started teaming up with Tennessee. So we did some testing with the University of Tennessee. We did testing with Delaware State University. We did testing with Laney College over in California. And then we were like, oh, and we also did testing with University of Miami. And then we said, well, what about high school, right? So it just so happened that we ran across someone who knew the someone at St. Vincent St. Mary in Ohio, right? And this is LeBron James's alma mater. So we were like, hey, let's go over there, show them what we got, and ask them, is this okay? Like, is this something that you think that would solve your problem of how can you train star high school athletes to become star collegiate athletes, right? How can you empower these high school athletes to have a chance at a scholarship, at an opportunity to play on the professional level? And so that was a great opportunity, speaking with Willie and having an opportunity to really understand what they need on a high school level, right? So now we have these great insights that we apply just in the Delaware region. because we don't have the funding to be flying all over the world right now. So we're like, all right, let's go here, fine tune it, perfect it, and then we can go back to the people who helped us establish the prototype, and then we can sign them on, and hopefully they will. Well, they're already in our pipeline to become a client. So it's just a matter of having a solid team and being able to handle what that's going to require of us as a company.
Understood. You said the buzzword funding, but I'm gonna let B, if you need to get one more in there before we
Good,
transition
bro.
to
I
two.
got man, what? Because I also see it in. I feel like some people might have just tuned out because we've just gotten a whole bunch of athlete talk. But I feel like even for like the common person, they're just trying to get in shape, right? So I think there's two ways that you can go about it. Of like if this kind of technology is within, your major facilities or any kind of like true performance gym, like you go in there and on your base, screening or assessment with people, it's like, okay, like here's where these muscles or these joints are like based on the average, right, or under developing. So like those are the first things, at least as a trainer, I would like to attack first. Like, hey, let's make sure you don't step off the curb and just wreck yourself, right? So that would definitely even help for the normal person. I feel like even if you want to get deeper into it, genetics does play a factor. So if you realize within somebody's, I guess, lineage that like, hey, historically the Johnsons, y'all's right hip is just not it. So let's figure.
I don't know how you do that. I don't know how, because it's spot on.
Wow,
It is
Johnson,
an
we
issue.
just like threw you way under the bus. Like, are you able to get up?
It must be just goodness gracious. My hip hurts right now. So thank you, B, for triggering that.
That's not right. That wasn't right. That wasn't.
But it was accurate. No, I'm amazed because you're like spot on. Like, yeah, the Johnsons and their hips, like it's just a thing.
I know a guy that can help. Anyway, but that's what I'm getting at of being able to, because even for myself, right? I think within our family, at least I've noticed lower backs being a thing. I was like, oh, well, maybe it's not just me. Maybe there's something I've just been given. So it's like, okay, now, hey, my kids, hey, we ain't dealing with no lower back issues. Okay, it's not what we doing, right?
Yeah.
So I would say just even having the knowledge there is huge. And then of course on your website, healthcare too, like for the people that are trying to recover from any kind of accident, like what do we really need to get in there and try to work on?
Yeah.
And also that just hit me is understanding, because the body's so intertwined, sometimes the place that you're looking at isn't necessarily the place that's causing the issue.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So sometimes it could be like your knee or your ankle, but it's actually because your shoulder's not doing what it's supposed to. Right. That all the way down the line now.
Yeah. Yeah. The stability and the balance, right, is important. And if you have an instability somewhere, your body's going to compensate for the lack. So I mean that makes sense. And I think there's such a big opportunity there in the medical, the aging, the rehabilitation, like that whole space. I'm excited to see, if it takes us there, right? I don't know if that will be, I don't know how that will look exactly, right? I can see it, but I don't know how that will look under what we're doing right now, right? It may be something that we would benefit from having, I don't know, it's definitely a thing. It's just a matter of how to structure it in a way where it's so beneficial. There was a story that a founder told me, and he's like, old school, been doing this for so long that, the things that are exciting for me, he's like, oh, you're so sweet. I'm like, okay. Right. Those guys that they do it effortlessly. So he's one of those guys. But he said he ended up selling his company 5 times.
Wow.
What?
Exactly. So he told me how, and I was like, I like it. So it was like, we could do that.
Yep.
Sold his company 5 times.
And you're going to share the secrets with us after the live stream, right?
Yep.
Got it. Cool.
Indeed, I am.
This is why we talk to people.
Yep. 5 times. I was like, are you kidding me? He said, yeah. And so I was like, all right. And so it's just, being interested. I'm always interested in people's stories, right? You never know where you'll find out. And when I found that out, I was like, all right, let me make sure I'm doing this the right way.
That is amazing. So
Gary, can I
let's
get one more?
you got one more?
Well, it's more about the story. If you want to take it somewhere else, we definitely can. But I was just curious.
Go ahead.
Okay, cool. And it was funny because me and Gary were talking about this earlier. Has it hit you yet, like, oh, the reality of the situation, right? Like, because me and Gary were talking about before, like, man, it's wild that last year this was just an idea, and now we have a podcast. People gave us money to bloom this idea up. So I'm sure, oh, clearly you're a couple steps ahead. So has it ever hit you yet? Like, wow, I'm doing this. I've worked with Miami Heat. I've worked with all these different schools and whatnot. Has that hit you yet?
No, it hasn't. And I
Okay.
kind of don't want it to, you know.
Mhm.
I don't want it to because I don't want to rest on my laurels. You know, there's so
Mhm.
much that I need to do. There's so much that
Mhm.
needs to be accomplished. You know, I think that um, you know, Grace has made so much room for us, you know, and
Mhm.
we've gotten so many different opportunities, and we just so happen to be able to have like a really great advisory board to help us know how to take advantage of those opportunities. So I don't know. I think I like the idea of staying hungry, right?
Mhm.
Like,
Ooh, I like
you
it.
know, staying like, no, we're
Yeah.
not there yet. Like, this is where we're
Yeah.
going, you know?
Yeah.
And if I sit back and I think of, you know, all the things that we're doing and all the write ups, and it's like, it's easy to kind of get puffed up, right? And you're like,
Yeah.
I got this. But I don't,
Yeah.
right? Like,
Yeah.
I still have no idea what I'm doing. All this is happening. And I'm like, what? Like, oh, okay. I was talking to Gary earlier. I'm like, Gary, what? And he's like, yeah, just do it. I'm like, okay, all right,
Yeah.
sure. Let's see what happens. Right? I don't know.
Yeah. I
Maybe it'll
think.
work. Maybe it won't. At the end of the day, it'll be a fun story, I guess. You know, I
Yeah.
have no idea what I'm doing, and I'm not
Yeah.
shy to say that I do. That I do. I read a lot.
Yeah.
I read a
Yeah.
whole lot. I'm like, all right, how do you do sales? I don't know. Let's read a book. I don't. How do you do strategy?
Yeah.
Let me read 5 books. Right? Like I don't
Yeah.
no idea what I'm doing.
Love it.
Oh yeah, and I don't think people admit that enough. Like, even though I've worked out my whole life still in fitness, but like I'm still learning this. I know it
Right.
looks like I figured some stuff out, but a lot of this stuff I'm like I'm connecting the dots here.
Right.
Like
Right. Right.
it's just going with it.
Right.
But I think that's the beautiful part is the learning process and being open to learn. Because if once you say like, "Hey, I know it all," then well, one, nobody likes to talk to you, and nobody
Yeah.
likes that guy. But
Yeah.
you lose the beauty of it. So
Yeah. You know what I love? I love the idea. Like I was at the Mill Summit this year
mm,
in Delaware, and there was this girl that was sitting at the table with me, and she was like fresh out of college, right? And she was just talking to me about what she was thinking and what she wanted to do, but she didn't think that she could do it, right? And then she was like, and I heard you say something, and I was like, yeah, you know what? I can do this. And I was like, yeah. I mean, it's
yeah,
the reality is that in biotechnology, there are not a lot of Black women, right? And I feel really good when I can let people of color know that, yeah, we can do this
Mhm.
because they look at us and it's like, you know, and that's the feedback I get when I'm like fundraising and I talk to people and they're like, well, who's going to run the company? I'm like, well, guess I'll do it, right?
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
I'm running the company. I don't understand the question,
yeah,
but I
Right.
understand the
It's a
question.
disrespectful
yeah,
question. Yeah.
Right, exactly. You know, it's like they don't think that we can lead. They don't think that we can scale things. They don't think,
mhm,
when I say they, the mainstream society, right?
Mhm.
They don't think that people of color, Black people, can do stuff. They think that we are supposed to be the helpers, right? And I disagree with that, right? I disagree with that. And I think that we just got to see it. And that's why I'm like, I got to do more, right? Like,
mhm,
I got to do more. I got to be able to sell this company 10x and say, I did it and so can you. And
Mhm.
let's do this together. Like, let's do this. And then make room for somebody else and empower them the same way. That does something really fantastic to me. So
I love it. That speaks to my heart. I love it.
mhm,
That's what we're up to as well. It's like we want to be the change. We want to, shine a light on amazing entrepreneurs like you, and also show that we can build a company that exist to support other entrepreneurs, other innovators, right, that come from our communities. And others can take that model and replicate it, right? Like for me, I'm only able to do what I've done because I've seen people that look like me doing this in different spaces. And it sparked something in me to be like, you know what, I can do it too. So, you know, representation matters. I think it's up to all of us to lift as we climb and just shine our light the best we can. And to that point, we want to talk about how the community can continue to support you and helping you build HX and getting you to that exit, right? So can we talk a little bit about the funding that you've raised to date and then the next step in your fundraising journey?
Yeah, sure. I want to say first, I appreciate Bison Ventures because like you guys are like fire for me. It's like, you know what? No, we can do this. I'm good.
I love it.
Because it's a scary world in the fundraising community. And so it's refreshing to be able to know that like, you know, you have people that are for you. It's empowering for me. So I want to thank you guys for that. I know this is a hard journey for you guys. You're in a space that, you know, but I just love how you guys are doing it. And I'm glad that I'm part of the journey. I admire you guys. I think it's fantastic. And whatever I can also do to support and make sure you guys go and help other founders, like I'm all in. So
We appreciate
but so
you.
far as our journey, we started bootstrapping, right? So a lot of it came from some consulting work that we were doing. And then we got the grant. The grant was substantial. I encourage people to do what you need to do to get the grants, right? They have early idea stage grants. They have all these programs. You have to do the work though, right? It's a lot of paperwork. It's a lot of reading. It's a lot of understanding. But we were able to get $110,000 in grants and awards. After that, our friends and family round, and we had to flip coins about friends and family. I don't know about anybody else, but friends and family was a whole 4-letter word in the kitchen for a lot of days, right? But I was like, you know what, if it's gonna get hard and I'm not gonna let my aunt down, right? I'm not gonna let this coworker that I've known since my first job down, right? So I may need someone that I have more accountability to than just myself to keep it going because it's going to be hard. And so we were like, all right, let's do it. So we do the friends and family round. We ended up raising $55K in that round, which was really, really awesome. And that's just a matter of being patient and really explaining to them what it is and what the vision is and explaining the big words that I didn't really realize were big words. Like you start getting used to things like, you know, fundraising, and they're like, what do you mean by fundraising? Is this a nonprofit? I'm like, wait, no, we're not a nonprofit. And I'm like, oh, that's right. This is, you know, so just educating them on these terms that I've kind of just become so familiar with. But I think that helped with the raise for the friends and family round. And then we started doing the accelerators, right? So we did the Science Inc. Accelerator with the Innovation Lab in Delaware. And then we were invited to do the Boom Startup Accelerator in Utah, which was fantastic because we were able to pitch in Hong Kong and we were able to pitch in California and Utah. And so that was really good. And it broadened my idea of like how small but big we could actually be and how we can like gradually get there. And then we were invited to the Bronze Valley Generator Accelerator, which is like an international accelerator program. That was fantastic because you have other like Brown founders that you can really talk to about how hard it is to actually raise capital and what you come against. But in all these different accelerators, you pitch to all these investors. Well, I just started developing a whole investor list and I reached out to every single one of them all the time. Hey, you remember me from X, Y, and Z? Blah, 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 blah. And just like every month, seriously, like, hey, just want to give you an update. We're still doing X, Y, and Z, just keeping you on the radar. And then now it's like a monthly thing where I just have a whole thing. And everybody who I've ever spoken with, whether they invested or not, you're knowing what we're doing. Yep. So when the opportunity comes, you can say, we've been following this company. It's a credibility thing, right? Mm-hmm. And so I did that with the accelerators. And then I was like, we need to do angel investment round, right? And so first was, oh, you need to go to VCs. And I'm like, well, we're not generating $1 million in recurring revenue. So maybe a VC is not for us. There has to be something else. So I started really being established in the community and meeting more people. And then meeting angels that I didn't even realize were angels, like accredited investors, because I would just talk to them and ask them questions and treat them as advisors. And the next thing you know, like out of the blue, I'm talking to one of my friends actually, and I didn't even know he was like an accredited investor. He's like, yeah, you know what, Nicole, I'm gonna go ahead and invest 60K in you guys. And I was like, oh, okay, dude, I didn't know you were, cool. That's, hey, whatever you need. What do you need?
Yeah.
Like,
Mm-hmm.
so I already had the term sheet, right, in the convertible note, and we talked about the terms and everything, but I've been talking with him for over a year, right, and establish the relationship and then the credibility. And so from there, we got other, other people were just like, hey, we want to invest, we want to invest. And then I started really understanding how to talk to angel investors and then angel investor groups, and then how to really just form friendships. And so with the angel investments, I was able to raise, like to date, we just closed an angel last week. And we were able to raise about 220K in like 6 months. Like that was like, okay, from here to here, we got 220K. But I'm like, somebody who didn't invest said, once you start raising, you're going to have to always raise. I didn't understand what that meant. Just like I didn't understand, Gary, when you said you need to do crowdfunding. I was like, why would I do that? Like, who would do that? But now I understand why, right? And so with that, I was like, all right, so I need to strategize how I'm going to raise this money, right? What's my burn rate? How long do I need? And so I can prepare to do a crowd round, because there aren't a lot of accredited investors. And there were a lot of people in our community that really like just are all in support of us. And I wanted them to be able, like, if this actually works out and we actually do what it seems like we are able to do, then I want everybody to be able to benefit from it. I mean, I'm going to come out good, but like, out good too.
I love it.
Like,
I love it.
So I was like, you know what, I'm gonna do a WeFunder round, and I'm gonna start low. I'm like, look, I'll just $100, right? Like $100. And so I was talking with Gary, and I was like, Gary, I don't know. He was like, Nicole, this is different, right? Like you gotta do it. So I was like, you know what, I saw what you were talking about like earlier this year about the importance of raising a crowd round, independent of what VCs say, independent of what investors say, because they all say something different anyway. Like none of it is consistent. Right. But the one thing that was consistent is the support of the community. And so I was like, all right, let's give an opportunity to like raise a round where the community can just be involved. And from the time that I opened it up, like 3 hours ago, we opened up a WeFunder campaign. Like we already have I think we have like 6,500, but then an additional, the Bison Ventures, you guys are our lead investors. So that was awesome. I'm like, this is amazing.
Of course. It's a good feeling.
Then we had like, 3 other people come up just and say, hey, we just invested. And it was like, oh, okay. So it was like, all right, so we have a goal. In 30 days, we got to get 50K in commitment. So every day I'm going to send something out and like just put fire in everybody and get everybody in. So we can do 50K in 30 days. That's the goal. So long story short, we raised over 600K, but we got 600K to go, but we're raising 50 with the crowd.
I love it. I love it. That's incredible. Like B had asked amazing. You about if you ever took a step back to think about it and let it soak in, but you done raised over $500,000 in funding for your business. That is an amazing feat, something to be proud of. And all your investors to date, I'm assuming the majority of them at least have been accredited investors, right? So those are wealthy individuals, people who have, worked their whole lives to get to where they're at today. And now they have, some savings that they're able to invest in startups and small businesses that they see value in. But now you've decided to say, I don't want to reserve this opportunity to create wealth just for myself, just for the founders of the company, not just for wealthy people who already made their money, but I also want to open an opportunity for everyday people in the community who come to your pitch competitions, right? They've seen you shine all these different places when you win all these awards and you speak. Now those everyday people can come in and invest for as little as $100. So I think it's amazing. I think you're going to crush this goal. Like, I think you're just going to surpass the goal, multiple times over, because what you're building is amazing. When you break it down for people, like you do such a good job of educating us all about, why it's important. And people just believe in you. Like they just, like, you see it in their faces every time you pitch somewhere. And that's why you've like won the grants that you've won. That's why people have invested the amounts they've invested, because they're like, you have built a dream team. And even though you say you don't know what you're doing, like you are poised, your presentations are solid, the business model makes sense, and you have a track record of success with some heavy hitters in the game. So I think you're going to crush this campaign, and we're just appreciative and honored to be able to play a small role in helping you hit that goal. And we're going to help you, blast this thing out to the community. We want more people to hear your story, more people to see you shine. And when you close your round, they're going to be like, okay, wow, if Nicole did that, if Vaughn did that, I can do it too.
Yeah, I really appreciate that. Like you do have an idea, but you have no idea, right? It's difficult, right? It's difficult to really build a business on a vision, on a thought, on a maybe, right? And when you do it and the pieces start lining up, you still have to activate it and you still have to do it. And so it does provide ammunition when people come behind you, and they just push you along and make it so you can't give up because people believe in you. And it's like, okay, I got this because I know that B and Gary are going to be there. But it's important, like every so often, like when we cross paths, it's like, okay, it's like being seen is important in this space because you're not seen, right? And you have to position yourself to be seen, but not in a way that is stereotypical of people of color. And I think that's also something that is like, you know what, we are educated too. Like we can do this. So let's do it. See what happens. Hey, and if it doesn't work out, then we got an awesome story, right? Like
absolutely.
Yeah.
And you've built your skill set over time as well. It's like you take that and you funnel that into the next thing. Everyone knows that startups are incredibly risky, and we're all operating in spaces where the business model may not be proven to the fullest extent, but the reward for figuring it out is that we can create true wealth for ourselves and generational wealth in our communities operating in this technology space, right? So I see it as, it's a bet that it is worth taking, right? The risks that are involved, I think, are well worth it. And since you're opening an opportunity for people to come in and invest a relatively small amount, right? You're not betting your house, you're not losing your life savings, but you are able to help a startup that is homegrown and that is Black owned and that has some HBCU affiliation, which we're proud of as well. So we're like, yeah, more people need to see this because we need more entrepreneurs out here building amazing companies like yours.
Yeah, I agree. And it's awesome. It may also be, like I'm a Marine Corps Army veteran. So I think my threshold of endurance and resilience may be a little high also. So.
There's worse things to be that high.
So,
go. Oh, my bad. But I was gonna say, like, me, I'm a proponent of words are powerful, right? So when you do these things, we shall celebrate accordingly. Yeah. But also, should Lord say, hey, this ain't it, there's profit in all hard work, right? So if this isn't the one, you're gonna go off and create something else that's even better, right?
Yeah.
And I always like to say during a workout, hey, you ain't dead yet, right? Yeah. So essentially means since you ain't dead, your heart's still beating, you still can move and do something else, right? Yeah. So I always like to throw that out there to people.
It's a good thing. Like the thing that makes me feel like, all right, we're going in the direction now and testing the different business models is now we're generating revenues. And so it's like leading with the money. And this is something that Stephanie Johnny with the Pierre DuPont Foundation said to me months ago. She's like, Nicole, lead with the money. Like, start with the money. What does that mean? Why is this important? Because when you have the money and you understand your pro forma and you understand your profit loss and you understand the market and what the market wants and how you can price your product, you can go in and you can say, no, I got, like, this is it. And then I can increase the value, which increases the price, which also allows me to have more of a stake in the game. Right. And so I think that also helped me reposition my mind where it's like, all right, we're profit driven, not necessarily getting funding, but also being able to balance it out where we will no longer need the funding because the company can sustain itself. And so when we shifted our mentality, it's like, okay, how can we become revenue generating? And that's been like for the next quarter, that's our drive, is like revenue generated. Everybody on the team is a seller. Like, I don't care if you are engineer, I don't care if you're an intern, I don't care if you take pictures at a game, you're selling stuff. Like, you know what the spill is, you know what the pricing is, you know what you can work with. Like, everybody's on board. So we had to change that. So people are empowered also, where it's like, you get profit share if you bring profit in. So that was also something that we had to do as well, because we do want to stay in the game, so to speak, right? Like, we do want to win. We're not doing this just because. We're doing this because, like, it's important. It solves a problem, and we're in here. So
yeah,
right.
Say with your chest.
Stand tall.
You show stuff out here.
I love it. Well, Nicole, thank you for everything, for joining us today, for doing the work that you're doing. Where can folks who are tuning in learn more about your company and learn more about your Testing the Waters campaign on WeFunder?
Oh, so we have a link, right? WeFunder at hxinnovationsinc.com. So if you wanted to check out our campaign, you can go there, or you can also go into one of our social media platforms. We're on LinkedIn, HX Innovations. We're on Instagram. We're on Twitter at HX Innovations DE. And so there are a lot of different ways that you can kind of tap into us. We appreciate the support. So, and I can also send a link. So
we will include it in the show notes through our podcast on YouTube. We will be sharing your link far and wide through our newsletter on LinkedIn. Like, we are here to support, grateful to have the opportunity to invest, and we want to share this opportunity with our community and just, again, shine a light on the amazing work you're doing. So thank you, Nicole. We appreciate you, and we hope to have you around the herd again to talk about some updates on the campaign very soon.
I would definitely appreciate it. Thank you so much, guys, for the time. It was a lot of fun. I appreciate being on, and I'll keep you guys posted.
Sounds good. Sounds good. Thank you, Nicole. All right.